And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Around the Bases with Bubba Mo, episode 95. You can check out the podcast on Twitter at Around Bases Pod. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, and my co-host, as always, you can find him on Twitter at Boston_Mo after a fresh weekend at Sox Fest or whatever you guys call it. How's it going, Mo?
Winter weekend. Was walking to lunch, and all of a sudden, out of a side door with security, Chris Sale walks in, and a nice sup, Chris, and hey, how you doing? So that was a little fangirlish that I had that weekend, and a couple other guys, and I didn't, it was kind of quick. I didn't know I was already almost by him. Didn't really know what to say, so I said it anyway. And then another Patriots Super Bowl. So that's also, it was a great weekend to be a Boston fan. I know everyone hates me, but at least I'm not like the fanboy Patriots fans who just throw everything at everybody. It's just a normal weekend for myself and the rest of Boston.
In the tweet you put out Sunday night, I wanted to respond to it, but I knew you'd get the joke. I didn't want all of Patriot Nation coming down on me. But when you tweeted about who buys championship weekend gear or whatever it was you said, I was laughing my ass off. I was like, that is beautiful.
Yeah, honestly, they had the AFC Championship shirts, and my wife was like, "Oh, these shirts are actually really nice." And I was like, "Yeah, but who actually buys those? Like, we're not here to win AFC championships. That's probably the NFC and the AFC Championship trophy is probably my fantasy football trophy is better than the AFC Championship trophy. It's a piece of garbage. I don't understand it. Why it's like that? It looks like it could break at any moment." And but it is what it is. So another Super Bowl. It's going to be a great game, and
it's going to be a bloodbath. But let's talk baseball here. Let's knock you down a few pegs as your rivals, the Yankees, continue to do things that make them look scarier and scarier. They go and sign Adam Ottavino, who many thought was going to be a closer somewhere. Doubt he's going to close often. He might still get a few because Chapman's injury prone. But they got Britton. They got a lot going on. Betances still. The Yankees signed Ottavino to a 3-year, $9 million a year for Adam Ottavino. Shocked me quite a bit, but overall, they might have one of the best bullpens. It seems like every year on the podcast, Mo, we talk about top bullpens in baseball. The Yankees might have the crown right now.
Oh, they 100% have the crown. I mean, Ottavino, I'm not sure you could rank them, obviously, but there's really, with him, Chad Green, Betances, Britton, and Chapman, you literally can throw them in at any inning. Like, you could have someone go 5 innings, and then all you get to throw is 4 out of 5 of them, an inning each, and boom, game over. So if you get to the 7th inning, maybe even most time, if you get to the 7th inning with a few bullpen guys, if you have a good bullpen, you're going to take care of business. With this team, you can get to the 6th, sometimes even get to the 5th in a high-scoring game, and they could take care of business. And it's a scary proposition. I feel like we almost said this last year, and it's probably, or maybe 2 years ago when they had Miller, 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. This is probably the best they've had in a few years, and I think it's probably the best bullpen in baseball.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what they put together. It makes guys like CC Sabathia makes so much more sense having a guy that's going to go 5 or 6, and then you just go to this bullpen, and it's terrifying. And if you want to give your closer a night off, it's not a big deal. There's a lot to like here about this Ottavino move, and I'm honestly surprised other teams didn't go for it. We'll talk about the Angels acquisition here soon. Not sure how they couldn't have gone $9 million. It makes me sick thinking back to the Giants giving Mark Melanson so much money, and you look at how much Ottavino's getting now. And then the fun one, if you're a Rockies fan, the last two years, all the money you spent on that bullpen when you could have just kept Ottavino for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I wonder if it has to be his age. He's entering his age 33 season. He was hurt a couple years back in 2015 and 2016. I believe it was Tommy John. Yeah. And then 2017 had kind of a rough year. His control was off. He let up a ton of homers, although he's in Colorado, so who doesn't? And he really, really harnessed that last year, led by that slider. I mean, that slider is just stupid. And I think this is what the real Ottavino. He's a big data-driven, analytical guy. He's been on MLB Network talking about it on MLB Now with Brian Kenny. We all know what Brian Kenny is in terms of analytics. He has entered this revolution of analytics, which You see all the driveline baseball guys being hired now by MLB teams. This is the way it's going to be from now on in baseball. And if this guy is really taking it in, maybe 33 years old is young for him, and maybe he's got a few years left because he's able to adjust to what hitters are doing with launch angle and whatnot. And if that slider continues to be the best in baseball, sky's the limit. I mean, I'm not happy right now because the Red Sox bullpen
is atrocious.
Is atrocious. It is. You lose Joe Kelly and probably Craig Kimbrell. Although the way it's going right now, Bubba,
Kimbrell might come back at a discount.
Yeah, we could get Kimbrell for like 3 years and 45 with an option. I mean, that's just really how it's turning out.
Honestly, why didn't the Red Sox get Ottavino for 3 for 27?
I have no idea. The only thing I can assume is the luxury tax.
I've heard that or New York roots. Ottavino wanted to go home.
Yeah,
New Jersey or New York, something like that.
Yeah, but he went to Northeastern. I know he's grew up there, but he didn't go to Northeastern in Boston. So he's been in Boston for years too. That's where he pitched in college. So it's scary to me because I really wanted him, and even if he wasn't going to be the closer, I really, really wanted him, a veteran guy in that bullpen. It's tough because the Yankees, they shored up their rotation. Now their bullpen's the best in baseball. We already knew their offense was ridiculous. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we do make the selections in March. I'm not saying I'm going to pick the Yankees to win the division, but I think it's
going to be hard for you.
Most people would right now. If you had a poll out now, I think most people would pick the Yankees for that reason.
On paper, they do look
on
better.
Paper.
I got one more question before you move on.
Sure.
It's just, you don't have to be a Yankee, just a team in general. Would you rather have Ottavino for his deal or David Robinson?
It's a great question. I think the way that Ottavino pitched last year, I think I'd rather have Ottavino. And, having said that, they're not the same guy, obviously. But I think Ottavino has a higher ceiling right now in how he pitched last year in Colorado. But David Robinson, I mean, he's pitched in New York before.
Yep.
It's a little bit different to pitch in New York than it is in Colorado. Maybe not the ballpark per se, but Robinson has done it, and he's proven that he's done it. I wonder if Robertson wanted to close. I'm not saying he's going to close in Philly, but I wonder if that was a big thing to him, just to be the guy there in an up and coming team like Philadelphia, rather than be, even though he's relied on heavily, he's probably the third or fourth guy in New York if he did re-sign there.
No doubt.
What about you? You take Ottavino or Robinson?
I take Ottavino. That's a guy, I've had him on a dynasty team for probably half a decade now. Even when he got hurt, I kept him because I loved that arm coming out of that bullpen, and I thought he'd always be a closer, and I finally thought I was going to get my chance, and now I lost it. But the guy's stuff is filthy, and he's 33, which it sucks, but
same age.
I figure they're the same age, and Robertson was a 2-year deal for a little more cash. I think I would have gone. Ottavino should have went that route. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Robinson is way more consistent than Ottavino. I just think his stuff is better than Robinson's. And I think ultimately it was probably the right move. I'm not sure that it was 100% the Yankees, choice, because Robinson signed early, and they kind of waited on Ottavino, so it worked out for them.
To be fair to the Phillies, they probably didn't think Ottavino would be that cheap.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd love to know what the conversations were. You'd have to imagine the Phillies at least knocked on the door before they signed Robertson.
Right.
But it's got to be interesting to see. I'm curious how that all went because Robertson, he represents himself. So I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
And they, what's funny is actually Robinson's, and I forgot about it. I don't know why I forgot about it, but his slider is very good too. So they're not.
Well, his stuff's filthy.
Yeah, they're not the same pitcher, but they're very, very accurate. And I know Robinson's got 6 inches on him, but Ottavino, but maybe that's not much there. But yeah, I would take Ottavino. You would too. So we'll leave it at that. Let's move on to the next one. There's only a couple of them, but we're going to stick with the Yankees. Well, really the Reds here. The Reds trade for Sonny Gray. And then they extend him 3 years, $30 million with a bunch of escalators and a club option for 12, I believe. So Sonny didn't want to bet on himself this year, especially in the Great American Bandbox. But the Yankees decide to go and they they get something for him. They get Shed Long, I believe, is who they got back, and the Mariners are kind of in there too. And they got a compensatory pick, which I believe is like around 36, could change, but it's in around that area. So the fact that they could get something for Sonny Gray is a good thing, but it's an interesting move.
Yeah, it's a very interesting move. I like it for the fact that the Reds are like, they're going for it, but they can't make the big splash. It's like, okay, we'll give up Shed Long, our number 7 prospect in our system, to get a starter that we can lock down for, he's still young, relatively young in pitching terms. He pitched well outside of Yankee Stadium, given Great American Small Park is not a great place to hit in or pitch in. But like Rob Silver pointed out, his road numbers with like DRA, he went deep into stats like Rob does. Mm-hmm. And he pointed out that in like the last 3 years, Sonny Gray really might not be broken. It was more his fastball was just hit like he was batting practice, but all of his other pitches were great. Like they were all, or I wouldn't say great, but they're all definitely way above average. So it's more like, let's get him with the pitching coach that might be able to fix his pitch mix. That's like the popular thing to say these days. What's the pitch mix? Well, he broke it down, and his slider, his changeup, those kind of pitches were phenomenal. Like we're doing very well. And so maybe there's an adjustment to make there. I think just the fact that you can get a pitcher that you can rely on for innings at basically $10 million a year in this era of baseball, it's very, very good. So it gives stability to a team that's rebuilding. That's why I like what the Reds did. The Mariners get another prospect. They have a ton of middle infield prospects. Shed Long's supposed to be pretty good. I've heard mixed reviews on this. He goes over there. And then the Yankees get Josh Stowers, I believe.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
New York, in turn, has flipped Long directly to the Mariners. They got center fielder Josh Stowers, a prospect for the Mariners. But also the Yankees got what's expected to be pick 37 from the Rays. So the freaking Yankees just continue to do things. Brian Cashman, I know we've changed our tone in like the last year or so on how good of a GM he actually is. Like just this deal alone, because Sonny Gray, they don't really need him anymore. You go get a top draft pick. Like it's ridiculous what he just pulled off. And now at least he can try to get some of those prospects back that the A's got from him earlier. So I think it's really good. I like kind of all aspects to it. I don't really know what the Mariners are up to, but I guess we'll find out.
Look, we've given a lot of credit to Brian Cashman for what he's done. I think everyone has, and it's been rightly deserved. But all of a sudden, we're going to say, I'm so happy that he actually made this deal. And it's
happy might not be the right term.
Not happy, but like it's another good deal by Brian Cashman. Sure, maybe the deal itself might work out okay because they're getting a pick, but this deal is terrible because you traded 3 decent prospects for Sonny Gray, hoping he would be your number 2 or 3 behind either Severino or both him and Tanaka, and it didn't work. So everyone was raving when they got Sonny Gray.
But that's what we're talking about, this deal, not that deal.
I know, but I think in essence, it's sort of a failure deal. It's he got something, sure, but he failed because the pitcher that he identified to be the guy didn't work out, and now they had to give more prospects up for a James Paxton because he didn't work out. They would not have to trade.
He just traded Sonny Gray, and he's going to have at least 2 prospects. So he lost 3. He's going to have 2.
No,
we'll see if those are better.
But he didn't give a highly touted prospect like Justice Sheffield. He's not going to have to do that deal if Sonny Gray works out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I have a feeling he's still going after Paxton. He might not have signed Sabathia or something. But Paxton or some other starting pitcher of that caliber was coming. In
my opinion, I don't think he gets James Paxton if Sonny Gray is what they thought Sonny Gray was going to be. That's just my opinion. I just don't. It just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't, because he would be equivalent to James Paxton almost. Maybe a slight tick off, but he is the James Paxton of what would be in that rotation right now.
I don't see him being anywhere close to James Paxton, but I see what you're saying. What's your thoughts on it, like for the Reds' perspective?
The Reds and sort of what the Angels are doing, they're in sort of a one-year mode where, hey, we want to try and compete a little bit. We want people to come to the games, which is what we'll talk about Scott Boras in a little bit, is what he wants to happen, right? They want teams to be competitive instead of to go full tank. The Reds sort of went full tank. Obviously, they couldn't get rid of Otto, but they made some good decisions. I mean, Scooter Gennett has worked out. Suarez has worked out, and they gave him a deal. And now they take a chance with Puig and Kemp for 1 year. They take a chance with Wood and Roark for 1 year. And now Sonny Gray, technically 1 year, but they lock him up at 29 years old at a friendly rate for them. It's not a Homer Bailey deal. They'll get rid of that Homer Bailey money, and then they'll be okay next year too when the next wave, the Hunter Greens and the Senzels, are ready to come up. So I kind of like what they're doing. Now, are they going to finish higher than 4th? No. But they're going to be more competitive than they have been, and hopefully more people will come to the games because of that, and we can grow the game instead of having 10 out of 30 teams tank.
Yeah, no, that's the kind of aspect I like from the Reds' point. We'll see how as I got scolded on Twitter for when I made fun of Cashman losing the Gray trade in the middle of last season. I guess we'll have to wait and see, as I was told by many people, because we'll never know if the prospects pan out or not. Because from the A's perspective, Caprillion still hasn't come back from TJ yet. And the other two guys, I can't remember their names off the top of my head because they haven't done a damn thing. So I guess we'll see.
I don't know. I guess I don't care what happened with those guys because they're not going to win that trade. Sonny Gray didn't give you really anything. I mean,
do you just want to say that it's a loss because it's the Yankees?
No, I swear to God, if you know me, I say it how it is. If the Red Sox did this, I would hammer them too.
All right, let's talk about the move. You mentioned the Angels a second ago. They go and get their closer again. I feel like they could have got Ottavino here for $9 million, but they got Cody Allen for 1 year, $8.5 million with a $2 million incentive package in place. So it's about, it could be $10.5 million for 1 year of Cody Allen to close for the Halos, who, like you said, are trying to make kind of a 1 year run while Trout's still there. What do you think about that one?
It is interesting. Velocity down for him. His walks were up. Homers were up, sort of everything was up, and it just didn't work out. Ks were down. His swing strike rate was down from 14.9 to 12.7. His contact percentage was up 4%. It just wasn't. It really wasn't great. He wasn't missing bats. I mentioned him last week. I wanted to see what Ty Buttrey can do, and maybe we will get the chance to see what he can do as a closer. It's obviously it's a low risk for them. And to think of what he was, I mean, he's still only 30 years old, and he was entering free agency at the right time. And unfortunately, it was just a year too late for him, because if he entered free agency last year, he would have made a shit ton of money. I mean, he really would have. 29 years old, 6 straight seasons at sub-3 ERA. I know his FIP was up a little bit from 2016 and 2017, but everything was there for him. It's really unfortunate that he had the season he had last year and literally a 0 WAR. It's a buy low move for the Angels. I'm not going to hate on it because they didn't give him a ton of money, and we'll see what happens. But I really wanted to see what Ty Buttrey can do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was like the first thing I thought of when that move happened. It was like a day or two after record. I started to laugh. I was like, God damn!
Yeah, right.
The whole time, just all the places to go to. It's just these signings confuse me because like I said, the Ottavino and other guys, Robertson's even, all these guys I kind of would have liked over Allen. Yes, he had one bad year. He previously was doing really well, but I think a lot of that also as he was used like crazy in those Yankees runs. There's a lot of question marks, but the stuff still might be pretty good. So it could work out well for the Angels. They've been an organization that's struggled to find a closer, consistent closer for quite some time now. So I guess we'll see how it goes, but nothing crazy with that. Just kind of surprised that's where he ended up landing.
And he's sort of become, if I looked correctly when I was doing some research today on him a little bit, he's sort of become just mainly a 2-pitch pitcher. Whereas maybe not. Maybe he's always been a 2-pitch pitcher. Yeah, fastball, curveball. I thought I must have been looking at the wrong guy, but so that's a thing too. So maybe the people have figured it out. All right, let's get to the last signing. It's been a quiet week. We can't get anyone signed right now. We can't get any of the big guys signed. But Nick Markakis is back to the Braves. 1 year, $6 million deal. He surprised a lot of people last year and had a pretty good season. He's always been pretty good in terms of, he's a high average, but The power went way down as soon as he went to the Braves, but they get him here, and seems like the Braves might be done unless they get one more bullpen guy or a starter. What do you think?
Yeah, they might get another small piece or two. The way, again, they keep reiterating all these cheap deals we're seeing. Like Asdrubal Cabrera got 1 year, $5 million that he could have fitted on so many teams, like as a utility type guy. But Markakis for 1 year, $6 million. I know there's some incentives in there, but he's coming off a career year. He's also reliable. He's had 155 or more innings played in every year since 2013. If you want to go back, he's played 155 or more in every year but one since 2007. So the dude plays games, and he's been a perennial, pretty darn good ball player. Career average of 288. The pop's not always there. He did hit 14 last year, which it's kind of as close to his career high. He had a couple years in Baltimore, but for the most part, he's a 12, 13, 14 home run type guy. Not going to steal a ton, but another veteran guy. As the team is still pretty young, him and Freddie Freeman can have a little corner locker area to chat and watch Acuna and Albies probably play music in the locker room or whatever they do. But I don't mind it. I think he's just kind of a placeholder as they keep bringing guys up. I could see them making another small move or two to kind of, I think they need a starter, at least until the young guys are ready. But, yeah, I don't hate it. It kind of surprised me this is where they went. If they're going to – because they have more money they can spend. So I'm kind of surprised this is the decision they made. But it's not a horrible move, just nothing that really, I thought was that surprising, I guess.
It isn't a horrible move. 100%, you're right. I think what this screams here is they don't want to give a draft pickup for a Bryce Harper, a Manny Machado, or in realistic terms, an AJ Pollock. That's what this screams here. And I'm a little surprised by it because I feel like AJ Pollock could be a really, really good fit in that lineup. I know they spent $23 million on Donaldson, but it's only for 1 year, and they have Austin Riley coming up right behind him. And they didn't have to give a draft pickup for him because he was traded to the Indians, so he was not able to get a qualifying offer, and the Blue Jays, that's what they decided to do. I'm kind of at a loss of words for them because they have a good team, but with what the Mets have done, I'm not saying right now I'm picking the Mets to finish ahead of them. What the Nats have done outside of letting Harper go, and then the Phillies are still there and are going to make probably one more big move, they could find themselves lower in that division than they probably expect going into the season because they don't want to give the draft picks up. And I know they lost the international free agents, and they probably lost some more money to do that over the years to come, so they need those draft picks. But if I was a Braves fan, I'd be slightly frustrated.
Yeah, it's weird because they go and sign Donaldson for like $23 million. They go give McCann some money, so it's not like they didn't have money to spend. Like I said, they still have some. So it's like they could have went and did the splashy move and got the guy that would help them contend with the NL East, like you said, spending money like crazy. So yeah, it is weird. It is definitely kind of a head scratcher. Maybe they got, maybe they'll make a trade at the deadline if they're in the right spot, or maybe they've come to realize after all these moves that, hey, our young guys aren't ready. Let's not break the bank now. We'll finish fourth this year, and then we'll go for it next year. Who knows?
Yeah, that probably could be it. I mean, they're getting rid of Adrian Gonzalez's money is what I look like from here, and Casimir's money.
And Donaldson will be off.
Well, I mean, in terms of like last year, they were 19th in payroll, which at $118 million, I thought they'd be probably top half, but I guess not. And so they're going to lose that McCarthy money from last year. The Markakis money will go down, and then from the trade they made with the Dodgers, they'll get rid of literally $40 million of Gonzalez and Casimir, which will go mostly to Donaldson. And then you're probably right. They've probably decided that 2020, 2021 is when they'll go. But when you have a guy like Machado out there and a guy like Bryce Harper out there, and even, AJ Pollock, maybe you want to make those moves, but maybe they've decided that next year is the year.
Yep, it's pretty strange. But let's talk about a guy that knows everything about baseball, knows all the solutions about baseball. His name is Scott Boras. And he's
I thought you were talking about me. Sorry.
Oh, jeez. We start off with Patriots and Red Sox. No. No, Scott Boras, he has ideas to make the game better, to make free agency better at the same time. He wants to expand playoffs. He wants more incentives for, clubs to sign certain players. Different rules, like you just mentioned, the draft picks with Harper. so on and so forth. What are your thoughts? Just an article in The Athletic, by the way, by Ken Rosenthal. What are your thoughts on Scott Boras's grand scheme of fixing the problems in baseball?
When I went and read this, Bubba, I was intrigued because, you can't really love Scott Boras because he thinks he's all that. And as a baseball agent, I guess he is. Every time you watch an Angels game, or at least I watch an Angels game late night, he's behind the fence, behind the plate. That's his seats, which I wouldn't want to sit there if that was me, because I don't know, I'd probably want to sit a little bit further up to see everything. But that's Scott Boras. He wants to be right next to the play. But he's got some good ideas here. I mean, he really does. The first one I'm not so crazy about, and that's the expansion of the playoffs from 5 to 7 teams. And then you have the number 7 seed play the 6, winner plays the 5, winner plays the 4. That would be, now granted, you normally wouldn't get in if you were the number 7 and number 6 seed. So sure, you've got to go through the gauntlet to be able to win the World Series. And it would increase teams to, like the Reds, we might talk about the Reds having a shot at that number 7 seed based off of, 7 out of 15 teams. But that would kind of water it down too, sort of like the NBA, where we know there's only 3 or 4 teams that always have the chance to win. That's just the nature of the beast in the NBA. And so all those teams really don't need to be there. It's just about money. Same goes in baseball, where it's just too tough for me. I just don't like that idea. I'll get your thoughts on that.
The playoff format is very difficult to do that way because, you don't want guys, sitting that long without playing. The grind, like you said, to play over and over again, it just doesn't work out too well. So, like Joe Pisapia was telling me the other day, he likes the idea of finishing the season early September, then just expanding the playoffs like you do in every other sport and having like 8 teams in each division to keep it competitive. And it's like, okay, you have 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, and you start out with like a couple 3-game series or whatever, and then you can up it to 5 and 7 towards whatever you want. But at least the September games matter. You get more teams in the playoffs, and that factor I could see that being more realistic than Scott Boras' plan.
Yeah, I think I would never push to more than 6. I think you have to have some incentive for finishing first or second or even third to have a bye. I really do think there's some incentive there to being the best team in a 162 game. And not only that, the early September thing, I just never entertain that because the owners aren't going to give up those gates. It's just not going to happen. So that's why I can never entertain something like that. But I do like increasing the playoffs, just maybe not more than 6. That's what I would probably say.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
The ones that really hit me, Bubba, were the next one was a rule discouraging clubs from aiming for high draft picks. If a team does not win 68 or more games, it cannot qualify for a top 5 selection. That is, even though his analogy was like the restaurant analogy, like if I can't be an elite fine dining restaurant, I'm no longer going to make a good hamburger. I'm just going to give poor meat to my clientele. That analogy doesn't really work for me because no restaurant would ever do that. So baseball, they're trying to get to the top. So they have to go down the bottom to get to the top, which is what happens again in the NBA. This is sort of the NBA model. I don't mind that idea, actually, because it would increase teams to try and win, and it would help players to get more money, and in turn help agents get more money. And this is his whole goal here.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. There has to be another way to do it because,
yes,
like when you have the top-heavy teams like say the Yankees and Red Sox both winning over 100 games, well, there's going to be at least one team in their division that gets less than 68 games. That's just process of how things work. And you're not, unless they fix –
not if they're trying more.
But just playing each other. You wouldn't be able to have all the divisions play each other that much then.
Yeah.
I think if the Yankees and Red Sox beat up on their division that much, that's so many games they're already behind.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think that's what leads into the next idea, which is the lottery based off of wins. And you get so many balls in there. So he wants a draft lottery that would enable teams to receive additional picks. So that is what would entice teams to win more and to sign more, pay more for some players, where if you get, the first lottery would be for teams in the 75 to 79 win range. And then with 80 or more victories, but do not make the playoffs. And then the third would be postseason qualifiers. So if you win more, you get more picks, maybe not early, but maybe in the fringe third, fourth rounds. And we all know if you get shots at draft picks, more shots, you're likely to hit on a guy in baseball. So that idea, I think, makes more sense than the 68 thing. It's win more is basically what he's saying. Even if you're not the greatest team, if everyone's trying to win more, it'll be more parity.
No, I agree. That part's fine and dandy. It's just going to be hard to get teams to actually do that. But I think the easiest solution that he did not mention is, and he doesn't want to mention this as an agent, you put a salary cap on the thing like every other goddamn league, and you have a floor on there. So there has to be a window you're in no matter what. Plus, whatever, there's tons of money in the revenue share we talk about. There has to be a requirement to use X amount of money. Otherwise, you don't get X percentage the following year. You build in stuff like that, teams will spend money. Very simple.
The revenue sharing, 100%, I'm with you there. The floor, I'm 100% with you. I think where it is now and where salaries are now, I think the salary cap would be impossible, literally impossible. But a floor, now we're talking like we get, say, everyone has to spend 110 million or 120 million. Now we're talking.
Yeah, there's got to be some stipulations besides the fact, hey, we're just going to tank because we're a small market team, but keep giving us money and we're good. No, there's got to be requirements to do certain things.
Now I want to look at like the 2022 free agency class in case they do implement that floor, because it's going to be like the NBA a few years ago when they just all decided to spend the money.
Max deals all over the place.
Like Austin Rivers got 45 million when he's not even worth close to that, and so now like all these guys like 4 years from now actually might be Benintendi. So like Benintendi will get 30 million a year.
Just watch. Harper, Machado are going to sign like 3-year deals, like with opt-outs after 3 years. So they're going to be free agents in 22. That's
100% going to happen.
I figured the best way these guys are going to sign is there's going to be like 2 or 3 opt-out clauses in their deals. Yeah. They might be 8 to 10 year deals, but there's going to be opt-outs all over that thing.
There's 100% going to happen with the two of them. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. It's what's going to happen. It's going to be glorious when they opt out and then there's a strike. Well, not glorious with the strike, but when they opt out. Yep. All right. This came out right before the episode. We've got new Hall of Famers. It's Mariano Rivera. It's Roy Halladay, Edgar Martinez, and Mike Mussina. Rivera is the first unanimous Hall of Famer in MLB history. Good for him. He deserves it. I think I'm sort of a proponent of this, that, guys like that deserve to be unanimous. It's tough because of the whole steroid era where, you don't know who was doing what. You assume that everyone was doing it. But, good for him. And then Doc Halladay, obviously, with the tragedy. Edgar Martinez has been waiting a while. Mike Mussina has been waiting a few years. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's awesome that Mo Rivera, I said it months ago on Twitter, and I got heckled for it, that if he's not 100% on everyone's ballot, then the people should not get to vote anymore. Like, he's as much as a lockdown Hall of Famer as there is out there. It is crazy that others like Griffey and others before him have not been unanimous. That's a whole other story for another day. But, it's good he got in. Doc Halladay, like you mentioned, had a hell of a career. His life was cut short, but that was nor here nor there. Edgar finally got in. It's a big win for all DH truthers around the world that you can get into the Hall of Fame, because apparently it is a position. And then Mike Mussina, he's been battling it. I agreed and disagreed with the arguments for Mike, and even Eno Saris said it after the announcement today that you can make valid arguments for and against Edgar and Mussina, but they're in. That's just the way it is, and that's kind of how I feel. They were right on the edge, and it's kind of what showed in the voting every year. They're both very good players. They wouldn't have got in. I wouldn't have been surprised. I'm glad they got in. The big takeaway I got from this year, which is fun, is I told you before the podcast, with Jeter coming on next year, he's pretty much the only guy on the ballot coming in next year that's worth a damn, at least first ballot-wise. And there's a great chance that Bonds and Clemens get in next year, because they're all the way up to like 72, 73% now.
And Schilling.
Yeah, and Schilling like a 70 or something. He's right behind him.
So 60 for Schilling, 56% for Bonds, and 57 for Clemens this year. 59 for Clemens and Bonds, 60 for Schilling.
I wonder what happened, because I was like an hour before the results came out. I was looking at I apologize for getting his name. The guy on Twitter that constantly updated the ballots that came in.
Not Mr. Tibbs or whatever.
Yeah, Mr. Yeah. And he had them both at like 72%. So I wonder how that big a disparity.
I'm looking at the Yahoo story, and it says.
Oh, I believe you. I'm just.
Yeah, no, I saw the same thing you did, so I was a little bit surprised when I saw it.
But they're right behind them, and they're going to get in here real soon. If it's not next year, it's the year after, and I so hope it's next year so that they can stand on the dais with Derek Jeter. It'd be so freaking amazing. I hope they all get gift baskets.
So this was the year. I see. You know what's weird about Mo being the unanimous? I thought I saw someone say that they were going to not vote for him because
no one should be unanimous.
Because there were 10 other people that he wanted to vote for. And he knew that Mo Rivera was getting in, so I want to give that 10th vote to someone. I thought I saw that, but maybe I'm wrong.
You probably did. That's how some of these idiots, they're like, well, he's going to get in easy, so this guy's going to have trouble, so I'm going to put my pick over here. Yeah. I see, you probably saw that. That happens all the time, and that's part of the problem with the whole system.
So it'll be interesting next year, like you said. One thing to point out, which I think he'll eventually get in because goddamn Lee Smith and Harold Baines, especially Harold Baines, got in by some. There'll be another committee.
I was about to say, let's not forget Harold Baines is on this group this year.
Yeah, Lee Smith and Harold Baines will go in with them. Fred McGriff is his last year. He got up to almost 40%. I would think that he will get in from some committee, whether it's the Veterans Committee or something down the road, that he will probably get in because, like I said, if Harold Baines can get in, Fred McGriff should be in. And it is what it is. Larry Walker is entering his final year on the ballot next year. He went up to 54.6%. I know a lot of people were, all over him, and then his detractors were sort of like, well, he played in Colorado all those years. So that's a big thing too. I haven't looked at the percentages for everyone, and they don't mention everyone here. We mentioned before that Billy Wagner probably deserves to be in well at some point based off of what he did. It will certainly, Bubba, be an emotional ceremony with whoever. I'm sure it's going to be his wife, probably, that speaks for him, or maybe someone like a Chris Carpenter who's played with him a lot, one of his good friends. I'm not sure who exactly, and maybe they've already announced it, and I don't know, but that certainly will be an emotional scene for that ceremony.
It's kind of remind you of like Junior Seau when his daughter did his speech at the Hall of Fame, when like even made any grown man want to cry. But I have the MLB Network on above, and they called Cole Hamels to talk. They called every other guy, but they had Cole Hamels talk for Holiday on MLB Network. And I know Cole Hamels has had a lot of things about it. And I remember when he passed, it was like Hamels, Utley, I think even Howard, and one of the other Phillies. They did a ton of stuff at the funeral. So wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those guys, because Cole kind of came up like under his wing type thing. So.
And they'll all be there except for unless Hamels can figure out a way to get there. But I'm sure Ryan Howard will be there. I'm sure, like I said, Chris Carpenter will be there, Chase Utley, because they're all retired now. So
I wouldn't be shocked if Hamels pitches. If he's not pitching that day, or if he works around his schedule, he'll probably get the take off for the day.
They'll let him work around at the Cubs. Yeah, I'm sure you're right there.
All right, let's talk some fantasy baseball. First base position. We did the boring-ass catchers last week. You got first base this week, who is it's a weird position this year.
Boring too.
Yeah, it's a weird position. It's kind of top-heavy. There's some value out there for sure, but it's not as luxurious as it once was. Just real quick, you got like Goldie and Freeman up top, but then it gets kind of messy. What are some of the guys that you think are going a little too high?
Well, I want to start with Freddie Freeman. I want to start with him, and I have a question. Are you worried about his power? Do we think that he's a 23 to 25 homer guy, or is he more the 34 from a couple years back?
I want to take the easy way out and say he's in between. I think a lot of the recent years it's just been injuries. Have always just beaten him up, getting hit on the wrist, getting hit on the hand. I know last year wasn't as much of that, but I want to think he's going to be a 28, 29, maybe hit 30 homer guy. I don't think he's going to be a 35 homer guy by any means, but I think he's got I think you could say 25 as a floor with upside.
Yeah, he was at 23, and then your in between is the 2017 season, which was very good at 28. Steamer has him at 26. I was a little bit worried, his barrel percentage down from 13.5% to 9.3%. His launch angle was down. He did most of his damage in the first half. His second half was a little rough, so I'm not sure. I tried to look up whether I thought he got hit in the hand again last year, but didn't sit out. So that might have been it too. You know, the fly ball percentage was down 9% too. So I guess I'm not worried about him because he's going to give you that OBP. He's going to give you the average, and that's big if you go get, you know, some late guy like Joey Gallo, who I'll talk about in a little bit, you know, maybe for a corner infield or utility. So if you have a guy like that, you can sort of even it out a little bit. So I'm not worried per se, but I'm not sure he's going to be what he was in 2016 in terms of power. I would guess he's around 25 or 26. So I guess I'm kind of taking your route in between, but you know, with the first base position the way it is this year, it's tough not to like him even that early.
Yeah, he gives you 4 really good categories, so you gotta like that.
I mean, I'm taking Goldie over him because they're around the same ADP.
Yep, totally agree with that.
Are you taking Rizzo over him?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
I definitely agree with Goldie and Freeman being the top 2 picks and kind of spaced out by almost a full round. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. In terms of guys that I have ranked too high or too low, I'm not going to be a Jesus Aguilar guy this year for 80 ADP. You know, I guess his first half, was it a fluke? Maybe. Ground ball percentage went back up to his normal 41%. I think he got figured out a little bit and could be the 2019 sort of version of what Domingo Santana was for the Brewers in 2018, where he just had a lot of trouble. I know they're not the same player. It's a different position. And, you know, Santana stole more bases than him. But in terms of what probably Brewers fans think of him coming into the season, I think he could be that player. And I'm probably not going to own any of him at 80.
I like Jesus Aguilar. I'm very skeptical of him. I'd almost rather wait on Jose Abreu just because of the consistency factor.
Yes.
That's kind of where I'm looking at right now. That I think Abreu will have a better year than last year too. But I think Aguilar can still mash. I'm just not sold on the numbers you got this last year. I think he should be more like 10th or 11th on this list, not 7th.
Yeah, I think there are guys. I think I would take a guy like Matt Olson over him. I think I would take it's interesting. It depends on my early draft who I get in the early draft when it comes to Joey Gallo. I tend to stay away from him in drafts because I just don't want to take that much of a hit on average.
What about OBP leagues?
OBP leagues is different. So if it's an average league, I'm probably not taking him at all. If it's OBP, I bump him up a little bit just because, you know, he does walk a little bit. So I would probably take a shot on him, even though I still tend to stay away from him. I know he has 40 homer power and maybe even more, and his skills improved a little bit in the second half. I think he batted like almost 240 in the second half, so that's pretty good. But I tend to stay away from him, but I may have a couple shares in redraft leagues based off of what I get early.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned Matt Olson. I have him ranked like 5th or 6th in my first baseman. I really, really like Matt Olson this year to keep moving up the ladder. So I like that quite a bit. A guy that I have that's too high that I think should be a lot lower. I was off of him last year, and I'm off Cody Bellinger again this year. I don't know how he's the 4th ranked first baseman off the board. I know a lot of people love the guy, but I can't do it.
I'm in agreement with you. I think I'm probably not going to own much of Cody Bellinger this year. Yeah, he's still young. He's got a ton of power. We know that. And he steals, 14, 15 bases. That's the intriguing part of him, is that if he can somehow get that power back up, we're possibly talking a 30-15 guy, or if he runs even more and gets on base a little bit more, a 30-20 guy. I mean, that's why he's still that high, I think.
Yeah, no, people are hoping that his average bounces back, that he's going to steal bases. That's what everyone's hoping for, but I'm also worried he's going to be out there playing center field or something and get hurt. So there's a lot of, you got to take him at pick 47 or so right now. There's a lot more I like around that point in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I want your thoughts before we get sort of to the deep sleepers. What are your thoughts on Jake Bauers in Cleveland?
Jake Bauers in Cleveland is not what I'd be a big fan of. I like him there. About pick 260 is not horrible. To me, he's more of an outfielder than a first baseman, so it's hard for me to – I know he's characterized as a first baseman here, but the power, I think you're going to get maybe 15 homers, 260, probably 270-ish average. And he will run a bit, which is nice, but he's also probably batting at the bottom of the Cleveland order, which is less than ideal. I'd rather take a guy like Josh Bell ahead of him, CJ Cron after him. Just kind of little things like that. Heck, you can get always reliable Jay Bruce 25 picks later. I like Jake Bauers. I like the idea of Jake Bauers. I like the idea of Jake Bauers in Tampa Bay a lot more than Cleveland.
Where do you think they have him on roster resource right now?
Well, they have him batting second?
Fifth.
Really?
You know why? Because Cleveland has Tyler Naquin, Roberto Perez, Greg Allen, and Martin behind him. He might be batting fifth.
He might be. That does help a little bit, but
yeah,
I'm still not 100% on him for some reason. There's something that's weird about him that I just can't gravitate to just yet. I like the guy. I want to root for him. At that price point, there's other guys I'd rather have.
Yeah, I think the steals are intriguing. They really are, especially if those guys are behind him. He might be running a little bit more just to there might be a little hit and run being played with them. It's really tough. Yeah, he struck out a ton in the league last year. I know it was only 323 at bats. He did walk a little bit too. So if he can cut down that swinging strike, he's intriguing. I'm not sure I'm going to have a ton of them because it's his first obviously full season. There's a lot of pressure on him there. But there's one thing you can confirm in Cleveland compared to Tampa Bay, in my opinion, is that he's going to get at bats. Yes, I don't think any of those outfielders are going to take away at bats from him unless somehow Tyler Naquin gets hot. I don't believe it, or Bradley Zimmer somehow gets hot starting in AAA. I just don't see him having at bats taken away. He'll probably flip between first base, DH, and outfield with Carlos Santana there as well. So that's the only thing I give him credit for is that he does walk a lot and he will get at bats. I agree with you on the power, though. I think it's more in the 15 to 17 homer range, but I'm hoping the steals are there.
Yeah, if the steals are there, it could be definitely much more doable. I can see that.
For sure.
What are some of the late guys you're looking at? Like I've already mentioned a couple after pick 200. Like Josh Bell's a guy I really, really like. You want to like Peter Alonso, but who knows what the Mets are doing right now. Other than that, you hear the name Ryan O'Hearn talked about a lot. That's like a deep, deep sleeper, so I'll keep it shallow there. But like Josh Bell, Justin Smoke still going really late if you want some power. You mentioned Jake Bauers. You got Carlos Santana sitting there at 215. But one of my favorites is Josh Bell and CJ Cron right there.
Yeah, I hear you there. I had Peter Alonso down at 248. I think that's one you probably take a shot on if you believe. I think I always try to figure out before the season, and especially in my 20-team keeper league, is what guy is obviously going to come up right away and hit or pitch either way. So 2 years ago it was Bellinger. I nailed it. Last year it was Walker Buehler. That was a pretty good one too. So Peter Alonso will be on my list. I'm not sure he'll be 100% the guy. I think obviously the top ones are Vlad and Eloy Jimenez. So I have to figure that one out. But the guy, I know he's second baseman, but he is first baseman eligible too, and depending on how much playing time he's actually going to get, I think he is going to get a ton. I think he's going to bat at the top of probably a bad lineup, but he's going to be there, is Nico Goodrum. And he's there around 301. Yep. And that's somebody, when you have second base and first base eligibility, and in 131 games, 16 homers, 12 steals. I know he didn't walk a ton, 8.5%, but that's up from sort of what he did in a full season with the Twins in 2017, or Twins AAA. That's kind of intriguing to me that he possibly could be a 15-15 guy at 301. It's a guy I might take a shot on. He's one, and before I'll let you comment on him in 2 seconds. The other one is Justin Bour, because he will get at bats, and that's at 458 because he's going to hit against righties all the time.
Yeah, especially in daily leagues, Justin Bour is super nice. Yeah. Nico Goodrum, I had a soft spot in my heart for him because he's always cheap on DraftKings, and he hit in the middle of that Detroit order, and he was second base eligible. So nice. I don't hate that at all. He's going to get a lot of at bats. He's sneaky pop in that little guy. So I don't hate that at all. A couple other deep guys I'm looking at. The injury risk, but Ryan Zimmerman at 330 is really, really late, like really late. Even if he only plays like 130 games, that's still going to get you a lot of value there at 330. So I like Zimmerman there. You can hope Ryan McMahon plays, but I doubt it because they got Murphy. That sucks. But the deep sleeper, and it kind of sucks because I love Kendrys Morales this year, and they got Justin Smoke. Rowdy Tellez is Rowdy. And if Rowdy gets a spot like this dude, people are going to forget about who Willians Astudillo is. This guy is the entertainment juggernaut, and he can hit the crap out of a baseball. He came up for a month when bad pitchers were pitching for the most part in September, but the kid can hit. He's done it in the minors, and going at 508, like that's not getting drafted in a lot of leagues. That's a guy I'd keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the beginning too. I don't think in redrafts he'll be drafted very high, but he should be watched. Is Nathaniel Lowe for the Rays? I mean, that guy's last year with three different. He started at high A, double A, ended at triple A. He batted 356, 340, 260 in terms of average in all three leagues, and then he had 27 homers. So the guy has a ton of pop. He could be up quickly. I know they've got a ton of guys there that they have to figure out how to get playing time, but that's somebody to watch, around May or June if he's crushing AAA.
And two other ones. Wilmer Flores just signed with Arizona. He's at 645. He can be sneaky nice there because they might not just use him as a platoon. And the other guy that's not drafted yet or not signed yet, going at pick 625 is Matt Davidson, and that guy can hit the crap out of a baseball. Like lots of power there at pick 625. He might only hit 230, but he could also get you 25 plus homers if he plays every day. It's a big if. But if you go somewhere and you're playing in a daily moves league or something, I pick 625 or on the free agent wire, like that's definitely got to keep an eye on.
If he doesn't pitch a ton.
That too. He could be the next Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right, that's all I got. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got too for now. I mean, the first base, just to end on it, it's not great. So if you can get one of those guys early, the Goldschmidts, the Freemans of the world, and maybe even Anthony Rizzo, that might be your route, and wait on a few other positions. But it's a tough one. And Paul Sporer had the article about it actually, I think 2 days ago, about sort of how to tier it out a little bit. Miguel Cabrera, you take last thought, taking a shot on him at all or no?
If he falls enough, I'll look at him.
Yeah.
I believe there's still something there.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be that guy. I still think there's a lot to like there, but I'm not going to reach for him.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, last one here. We'll go down on the farm. Prospects Live, who obviously in the last 5 months, they've been gaining a lot of traction. A lot of guys there scouting and a lot of good guys there. And they came out with their top 100 2018 first year player draft for dynasty leagues. So it's free. So that's an interesting list on there. A few things caught my mind. Number one, first off, is Yusei Kikuchi, who just signed with the Mariners for the international bonus, $44 million or whatever it was. He's the number one guy if you are in dynasty leagues, according to them. It's an interesting one for me. I'm not sure I would take him number one there in my dynasty league, but they have him number one. And just to round out the top five, Bubba, is Jonathan India for the Reds, Trevor Larnach for the Twins, Nolan Gorman for the Cardinals, and Nico Horner for the Cubs. Your guy, Joey Bart, was 15th to them. And what I would say is he's probably 2 years away. And that's probably the reason why he's that far down. The one I'm confused about is Nick Madrigal. I thought he would be higher than 12, but that's just me. But your thoughts on this list as you kind of just glance over it real quick.
You went to Joey Bart first. At number 10 is Marco Luciano of the San Francisco Giants, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Ooh, missed that one. Signing. Okay.
Yeah, no, the Giants have had a good international period, and I found out the other day that Bart and Helio Ramos are starting in San Jose this year, so I'm pretty pumped on that one.
Awesome.
But Kikuchi, that's pretty much a no-brainer. That's like when any of these foreign players come by, but it really it's interesting when you see like a Jonathan India second, because when we talked about the draft last year, like India, Brahm, and a couple other guys, and India dropped after them, I believe. So now he's like in it. But we talked to different guys, and they said that's the hitter, that's the guy you want for fantasy. So I think that's a really, really good move there. Nolan Gorman, I've been seeing all the hype in the world. I wonder if Matt Thompson had anything to do with this, but yeah, Gorman all the way up there. It doesn't surprise me. I guess it kind of surprises me. Is that high?
It was from Ralph.
Oh, Ralph did that. Oh, yeah, the RL. I see it now. Yeah, got it now.
Yeah.
But you got Victor Mesa at number 9, who's coming from Cuba. I like that quite a bit because there's a lot of talk on him, and he's one that can actually maybe help you a little sooner than later. I do agree the Nick Madrigal one surprises me quite a bit. Other than that, it's, playing the prospect game is playing the prospect game. A lot can change throughout time, but this is an awesome list. One of the biggest takeaways from everything you just said is Prospect Live, the stuff they're doing for people that love prospects, absolutely amazing, and it's all free. Like the guys that work, like we've had Jason Panini on the show. There's a lot of other guys that are awesome dudes, and they have put in a stupid amount of time on this. Like, it's awesome what they've done here, and to have it all for free is pretty damn impressive. So that'd be my biggest takeaway. We could go player by player and talk a lot and do that if you want, but there's a million different ways we can go with prospects that we might not see for the next 5 years.
I was just going to say, it's really tough to do with first-year prospects because, number one, most of them, if they do sign right away and they do go to the minors, they go to short season. So it's tough to really gauge what they are in that league or whatever league that they're in or around the country. I think the Trevor Larnach one, I just was trying to get his Fangraphs page up. I think it's so interesting to have him all the way up there. I know his power is just insane. He actually went to rookie ball right away and then killed rookie ball, and then they moved him up to A. So I wonder if they're going to move him up all the way to high A this year. It'd be interesting to see.
You see what Matt Thompson says. He expects from Minnesota quickly. It's his number 1 pick in first-year player drafts.
Yeah, that's exactly. Beautiful swing, uses all fields, power, finally showed up in a big way last season. So it's should get to Minnesota quickly. I wonder how quickly that is, whether it's, if Minnesota's in it and they need someone, it's August, maybe September, or are we talking 2020? I would guess at the latest, based on how high Matt Thompson is on him, that it would be 2020 at the latest. So that's a guy that I did not think when I opened this would be up there. But there he is.
Yeah, I guess the other takeaway from those is we have to remember if they're the way this ranking also works is who's going to have more of a fantasy impact for you sooner. They probably factor that in as well. So that could have maybe they know Madrigal like on a real prospects list is top 7, 5, but they realize that with the White Sox they're slowly moving them through. Maybe that's going to do it. No idea. But that
I hope his play speaks for himself and he makes them move them through. But we saw what they did with Eloy Jimenez, so I would doubt we'll see him this year.
Well, and Madrigal is really good. He reminds me a lot of Keston Herrera, and the way that Herrera's kind of gone through the system, it makes me wonder if Madrigal's got like 2 more years before you see him.
Yeah, I hope not, but we'll see.
I agree. Maybe the new 2022 will help with all those problems.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, that'll wrap us up this week, episode 95 in the books, everybody. Any final words, Mo, as we're still waiting for the big boys to start signing, hopefully sooner than later?
They got to figure this out. It's when you're less than 30 days away from the first game in spring training and your top 2 guys, really your top, would you say top 3? Pollock probably 3rd, something like that. Or 3 out of your top 5, we'll call it, aren't signed yet. And then your probably 2nd starter and Keuchel isn't signed yet. Something has to be done here. I mean, this is boring. It just really is. Maybe boring is the wrong word, but anticlimactic maybe. It's just, let's get something done. You've got all the rumors about Manny Machado, then his agent coming out, and Bryce Harper's having fun with it with Tony Romo, and let's get this done. This should be done before January 1st most years, in my opinion. Yeah,
the pitchers and catchers report in about 3 weeks, give or take. So it'd be nice to get this stuff rocking and rolling here pretty soon. But everybody check out Mo on Twitter at Boston_Mo if you want all those Patriot hot takes. He's got them for you.
No.
I'm joking. He'll tell you where you can go buy your championship gear, though. The podcast is on Twitter at Around Bases Pod. If you could give us a rating and review on iTunes, much, much appreciated. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, and this was Around the Bases with Bubba and Mo, episode 95. Catch you later.
See you.